so that we can get to it. But,
and also I'll be kind of keeping an eye on time. We usually do in between 10-15 minutes on each track. And we'll see how that fares with us tonight.
okay, so let's just get a rundown here. So I have 4 people joining, and I have 7 potential submissions. So 3 people are missing from what should be in the submissions. Correct? If my math is correct. Let's just run it down. Let's see. Cellsound, she's gone now. Is she still here, or is she? Oh,
I'm here. We're here.
It's just weird because you can only see a certain amount of people. So how many people are actually in here now, Thomas? Do you know?
It's 8 people.
8 people. So then maybe
yeah, you can see it down at participants.
Yeah. Just it's YouTube too, huh?
So I think we're 6 outside you and Thomas.
Okay, so there's a 7th person. I guess everybody that's in here should be people that actually submitted, right? Okay, I could see. Okay, so some people are there, but their cameras are off. I know somebody already told me they can't have their camera on. Oh, look, camera's on. Camera's on. Okay, so let's get rolling. So what I've done is, thought Max was joining us today as well. Thomas, he told me he'd be here in the beginning, but I guess maybe he'll pop in at one point.
Yeah, he actually texted me saying he's not gonna be able to make it, unfortunately.
Okay, so welcome everybody to another round of the feedback sessions. This is the first time I'm actually leading it. I've only sat in for a couple of feedback sessions in the physical school and watched it go down. Participated just a bit, but now it's on me to kind of lead the kind of feedback on this. We have the submissions. I have set them up, and then let me just share my screen. I have set them up on an Ableton project, which if you give me a second, I'll just share. And maybe you guys can tell me whose is whose and whom's, sorry. And then we can get going with this. So here we are, Ableton project. Everybody can see my Ableton screen, correct?
Yep.
Okay, let me do a little sound test to just make sure that we have sound. Everybody hear the sine wave?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
All righty. Okay, so we have the submissions that I have here now are the ones that were submitted as in bounced audio. There are 5 of them and 2 more that were Ableton projects. One Ableton project I was not able to open. Who has the chords project? Anybody? Chords project?
I think it was from Tyler. I don't know if he's in here yet.
Okay.
I
So
sent audio, but I don't see my track in the audio ones.
which one is your track?
Smile.
Smile. Thomas, did you send me that?
I'll double check for it now. I
Okay.
do remember getting your email though. So
I sent to the hello email. Is that the correct one? Hello. Yeah. I
I'll
send. Yeah.
I'll send it over to Abe again to be sure, because I definitely remember seeing your email.
So hold on. I'm looking at what I got. Just to get this done before we have to do it in the middle of it. I don't see it here, Thomas.
All right.
What is it? So I have 4, 5 with the initial one from Tristan. Is Tristan in here yet?
No, I don't see Tristan yet. But I'm gonna send over his track again right now.
Okay, please do.
Hey, Thomas.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I also sent a link to SoundCloud. Would that be okay?
We can work that. We can get that working, but I don't see that. Did you send me the link, Thomas?
I do. I'm just sending over this one quick.
Hey, Thomas. I also sent link for SoundCloud.
Okay.
in the email.
All right, so that's 3 of you. So here's that one.
All right, so I'm gonna actually get started. In the meantime, if you don't see your track on there, we can work through the chat, and there's a way to chat individually directly to Thomas. So if you don't want the chat to be shown in the rest of the chat room, well, we could just use the whole chat room if you want. But you could like direct message Thomas through the chat room as well, and just get it sorted out. And that way, you know, I'll get to it. If it's a link, it's not gonna be a big deal of like just, you know, clicking it on there. Maybe we could even just put the link in the chat. Just drop the link into the chat. That would be probably the fastest way of getting about this. All right, so let's get started here. Let's see. We have 5 of these. Let's start with the 5 that are actually exported tracks. So we have I'm going to start with the bottom. Meow is, I believe, Salson's track. Is that right?
Yes.
You're still here? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So let's play it. Let's listen. And I guess you guys know how this goes. We all. It's going to be a little different. Again, how did it run last week? I guess last week it was less of a round robin kind of feedback situation and more of a in the chat feedback situation.
So that's correct. So what we're going to try to do is mostly let Abe give the feedback, and this will go kind of with the other ones we'll do online here. And then any feedback you have to share as a participant, you can include that in the chat, which should be pretty easy to access here in Zoom. And then, you know, if we have time, we'll open it up for, you know, verbal feedback from everybody. But we're going to try to keep things moving along and kind of let Abe do most of the moderation and verbal feedback, if that's all right with everybody.
Yeah, that works.
All right, here we go. Whoa, everybody can't play at the same time. I gotta mute everybody else. That's kind of crazy. All right, here we go.
No laughing. I have to talk to him to get him to meow. No laughing. No laughing. It's not funny.
It's not funny?
It's not funny. Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Where's the cat? I'm a lover, not a player. Have to taste my new school flavor. Sweet low, now not later. Make it fine, you shine like Vader. Drop a beat, nice and slow. If you follow our flow, in a cloud, drift like vapor. Take a ride on my elevator. Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Shoot me up like a bullet of laser, like a phaser, space invader. Tweaking on my oscillator, sucking on my rim shot fader. Keep breathing, that feeling, bump that into the heat, the ceiling. Something random for your treasure in my chest of sonic pleasure. Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Go faster, oh master, hit you with my mojo blaster. Our dreams are real like magic, psychedelic mind is tantric. More layers, more flavor, let it spin on a record player. Wanna make music delicious, I just wanna catch all the fishes. Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Take a ride on my elevator. 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 I do little flazer, like a phaser, space invader. Breaking on my oscillator, touching on my rim shot fader. Keep breathing, that feeling, bump that into the heat, the ceiling. Something random for your treasure in my chest of sonic pleasure. Where's the cat? Where's the cat? Take a ride on my elevator. Where's the cat? Take a ride on my elevator. Where's the cat? Take a ride on my elevator. Where's the cat? Take a ride on my elevator. Where's the cat? Where's the cat?
That was amazing.
That was great.
I'm speechless. I can't give you feedback on this. This is crazy. All right, that was great. Talk to us. Tell me about this track and how it came together and what you were aiming to do and all that.
So we both made it. This is Steve, by the way. And it was we sampled everything basically, from pots and pans and doors and lights. So everything was sampled, and only one towards the end we put on the Massive X kick to pump it up, but the rest was like sample the cat, the voice, and it happens like organically. We didn't plan it, we were just having fun of like, and then, where's the cat happens normal, organically. And then we just, oh, that's funny. And we just put everything together, and then, yeah, it happens. And I think it's a lot of work in terms of mixing wise, because it's we did it together with Zoom, and I think the quality is not as great as the instrument that you get from Spice or you get from Ableton or Pact. So
You mean the samples?
Sorry?
You mean the samples that you made?
Yeah, we use a Zoom H2N like stereo recorder.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think it needs like, it hasn't been mixed properly, but I feel like it needs like a kind of like a patient mix, because it's like one by one, everything, it's a lot of work basically, and we wanted to mix and yeah, maybe an input in terms of mixing.
I will agree with you that it could use a little more time on the mix. I will talk about those things, but before I talk about it at all, I want you to tell me what sort of feedback you're looking for, because the thing is about feedback is it could be so random.
Yes.
I could start talking about things you don't care about listening to about. So what type of feedback are you looking for? What?
I think technical mixing part, to finish this.
Yeah, like where to go to finish it. I think maybe there could be a couple more fills. There could be like some effects thrown in on some of the vocal parts, like multi-tracking, again, like vocal layers, or like souping up the drum beats in certain places, punching up the snare.
Right.
I think we'll need to retake some of the vocals, because we just
that was
did it at home. I think we need to kind of like a proper studio to go and take the vocal properly, because I heard also like.
You mean your main vocals?
Yeah, my main vocal.
I look. So I'm good. Let's talk about that. So as I heard it, it did sound like it needed processing.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It did, and one of the things that I can hear right off the bat was the fact that you had a little too much bass in your voice.
Really? Yeah.
It was a little too bassy for its own good. So it was kind of hurting its presence in that it was present in the place that you really didn't need it to be present. Considering that altogether the whole mix itself was missing a bit of bass already, it actually stood out a little more, the fact that you had a lot more bass. So I'd say roll off some of that low end to begin with. I like what you did with the. Tell me what you did with the left and the right. How did you get that going? Was that 2 takes? Was it a house effect? How did you get that kind of? Because it was
The vocal?
The vocals, we did
Yeah.
2 takes and then panned it 50 left, 50 right.
Yeah.
And so it kind of like blends together to create a fatter effect.
Yeah.
Right, or it sounds like the 2 people really in the end.
But I
But
think one of the channels also is pitched up a tiny bit.
No, it's 2 vocals
Yeah.
and 1 pitch up, left, 1 just a normal voice to the right.
how much did you pitch it up?
Sorry, just 1.
Just like 1 or 2 cents. Just
the 1, just 1.
What is that? So to get like so that's a nice variation on what we might call the house effect, which
Yeah.
is take the house effect tries to create presence by making things very different from one side of one ear to the other. So in one of the uses of it, you deal with time shifts. So if a wave front comes to one ear before it comes to the other one, then you have this kind of, your brain makes this kind of thing happen where you feel like there's more going on, or it's a bigger presence. The other thing that you can do to get at that same effect or phenomenon is to pitch slightly different one side from the other. Now, this is strange. It's not strange, but it's also very pronounced because it was already different, because it was already 2 takes. So the fact that there were 2 takes, there would have been already some small pitch differences in there, and there would have been some small time shifts in there, because you can never say it perfectly the same way twice, just not that perfect that your brain won't be able to notice it. So so to change a little bit on that would pronounce the effect. I mean, by that I mean like change a few cents or a couple of cents on one side would pronounce that separation a lot more. Now, that was nice. However, both of those takes were a bit on the bassy side for it to sound polished. It did sound. And I think if you roll off that bass, you're gonna feel a lot better about it. Just roll it off. Roll it off, until it doesn't feel good anymore, and then back off a little bit. Other than that, I thought the track itself, I mean, altogether, I really had a lot of fun listening to this. This is awesome. This was, writing wise, great. The track itself, I think, could use a little bass, all of it.
Yeah, we're thinking about putting a bass line where like the main, I guess it's kind of like a kind of a chord. It's basically just on that part, and then just
right. So
adding a bass note to that.
Hearing you say that, I do agree. However, that's not what I was referring to altogether. I feel like the whole track, whatever is there right now, is missing some low end content.
Like sub bass,
yeah, it's just like the bottom part of whatever is even there is missing some low end content.
Yeah.
That said, you could decide on adding a bass line or whatever, but in itself, it's a little bit missing of that. And then there's a little bit of sibilance going on, and a little bit of like resonant frequencies taking over in the high mids that I heard. So how are we doing on time for this one, Thomas? I just wanted to maybe drop a couple of effects in there quickly.
Yeah, you got time for that. We got like a couple more minutes here, 3 or 4 minutes.
Let me just quickly grab something and throw it on there. For the bass, I'm gonna just grab a Pultec and just add a little layer of bottom with that.
You ready? Yeah, so much.
Let's do this one here.
Why? We'll take AQ here.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and play it randomly there. And then I'm gonna boost.
Where's the cat?
That's 30 hertz. I mean,
I'm a lover, not a player. Have to taste my music.
you know how bassy already, even that gets even bassier now that I boost that. But if you would have
the vocal.
Yeah, let's get before that.
No laughing. Talk to him to get him to meow. No laughing.
Let me just take that out.
No laughing.
It's not funny.
It's not funny.
It's not funny.
Now, I'm adding quite a lot to exaggerate and show you what's happening. But I just wanted to show you the contrast as you get used to hearing it like this after a while. Maybe back it up a little bit.
Talk to him to get him to meow.
When I come in here and take this off, you're like, whoa, where did everything go? Right? So whether you're going to add more bass in the form of a bass line or 808 type thing or whatever you decide to do, altogether everything is missing a little bit. And also now just quickly to grab like a de-esser to play with here. So let's see, Fab Filter, where are you? So take a Pro DS and look at what's happening. And I'll show you what is more. I'm gonna solo the frequencies and then kind of look for. And in your case, it would be really low, kind of not unusual. Sort of, it's not even sibilance. It's more like, because right now we're between 2 and 4K, and it's more like resonant frequencies around this area. Hear these? All that stuff here. You could probably do that with a dynamic EQ or a regular EQ, but all this area is full of that stuff. That stuff is a little too much. It's building up a little too much in your mix. It's not typical sibilance as much as it is like a resonance that's building up quite a lot in your mix. So deal with that, and you should not be that far away from just being able to like call it a day. It's just maybe another hour or two just dedicated on mixing it, and you'll be good. Any questions?
Want to ask, like, we haven't tried it yet, but maybe popping all the drum sounds into like a glue compressor, just kind of squeeze everything a little bit more. I think we obviously have to tune some of the sounds are a little too loud here and there, but what would you think about squishing the drum track?
I don't know about squishing as much as giving everything harmonics. A glue compressor I would grab for the kind of harmonics that it provides, the coloring that it gives. Squishing, a lot of these sounds are pretty squished already. Yeah. And so I don't know if cutting the dynamic range on these sounds is going to help you out as much as maybe. It might, certain sounds, like I haven't gone through every sound individually, like say this across the board, but it's not like the thing that I'm like thinking, yeah, this is the thing that I can tell them right now to like improve this track. I think altogether, maybe everything going through some bus compression or subgroups going through bus compression might be a better thing, instead of like thinking of like compressing every element on its own, just everything kind of like just riding inside of a bus compressor. I just feel like it all belongs in there. Like a glue, for example, would be perfect for that.
Beautiful.
Any questions from anybody else on this, or must-say comments?
No, it's a very good track.
Great work. I think we'll have to kind of be moving into the next track, Abe, but I did.
Okay.
Really cool to see from Sasan.
Thank you, Thomas.
Very nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Thank you, guys.
From you before, but it was really cool.
All right, let's keep moving. The next one is Triumph by Ethan James. Is Ethan still in the room?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I can't see you. Am I? Again, all these. I can't get everybody in one. I think I could get right now. I managed to get more people than I usually get. I have like maybe 10 people in my windows right now. But I don't have view for some reason.
There's a little arrow at the bottom if you put your mouse over the windows, our faces.
Yeah, I'm moving that arrow, and I don't really see you. But okay, I'll just listen to what you have to say. I'll just play this now, and we'll talk later. All right. So let's go.
Yeah, super
All
nice.
right. Really enjoyed that. Let me stop this. I think it was well put together. But let me get you talking about it first before I throw in my opinions.
Well, so everybody picked up on it. My main gig is as a film scorer. So I was approached by a rapper to build him basically a crazy film score track for him to rap over. So I guess what I'm looking for here is, my first gig in New York was actually producing for a hip hop label, but I haven't done that in years. So feel a little rusty, especially with mix skills when we get into these heavy 808 basses. And just looking for overall feedback on form and stuff like that. Like, he's gonna do what he does and send me back the vocal, and so maybe we'll hear the end of this at some point.
Okay, so I figured something like that was the case. So let's take from the strong points. First of all, composition is strong. I'm not even going to go into how strong, because it's pretty strong. But let's talk about the elements and how they present. The important elements for the genre that you're kind of, or your purpose here, are really well minded. Meaning, the low end sounds really good. Low end sounds really put together. It's really up front. It's really prevalent. The chords, those chords that you have playing, they're very much up front, and they're very wide, and the presence of them are huge. And this is great, but I find that some of the other elements are kind of a little buried, including the hi-hat. The hi-hat seems to be set down the middle. If maybe I'm wrong, it's hard to see where, without looking at the mix, exactly where they are panning wise, but they seem to be down the middle and a little bit quieter where it comes in the middle of while I was playing this back. I kind of lowered the volume as low as I could possibly have it without actually, stopping to hear anything. And then I noticed that certain elements were disappearing and certain elements were actually coming through. There's an arpeggiator that comes in, for example, just as it's kind of a lead. Let's see if I can compare here. Get our arpeggiator in the background there. That arpeggiator is not only very quiet, but it's also very thin. So it doesn't have any real presence, and that would be okay if it was really just a backing element. But it is, as this is presenting now, it is more of a protagonist than anything. Now, this all can change when the vocals come into play, and that's the kind of the wild card here. We don't know how and what we're going to need to be able to do to this mix if we don't have the vocals involved. And depending on the vocalist as well, and how they rap and how they sing, if they're going to sing, and their range of their voice, and this could mean everything for changing the balance of a lot of these elements that are in the middle. And so hard to say where perfect would be for any of these elements, except that the bass is pretty good. Now, a lot of rappers these days want to hear more exaggerated bass than what you have. So let's talk about that a little bit. I like it for my taste. It's really there. It's super solid. And I think any sane engineer would say, yeah, that's pretty done well. It's done well. However, like, depending on what type of rap kind of scene you're ending up in, a lot of the times, and I dealt with this in numerous classes when I get students or artists that come in that are working in these genres. I wouldn't even know about this otherwise, that for them, the subtext about making this music is that the bass and the bottom end should destroy your speakers. If it's the mission of the low end is to rip apart your speakers. So even if it sounds pretty bassy and well balanced and very nice to listen to, this might not be enough for certain artists. So keep that in mind, and don't be shocked if what they're actually wanting you to give them is something that sounds completely distorted to you. If you have a more classical sort of approach towards all this stuff.
Yeah, he was happy with this, but what he sent me was so distorted. Like the bass sounded like a square wave, and I was like, I don't know how this would even play in a club if it sounds like this.
Basically, it has to sound like your speakers are broken.
Yeah, that's what he sent me.
And I can't, listen, I understand what anybody else would say other than that, but I know it to be a reality. And I like to stay agnostic about every opinion that I have and understand the root of what makes the drives even specific genres. Like even like things that are wrong, like having things over 0 dB on the dBFS scale, like where you're in the red, like by 2 or 3 dB, this is actually a good thing. Like it's almost not right. It's a kind of a punk sort of action, and it's kind of a in your face kind of move, but it's real. And if you don't do it, it's almost as if you don't get it. So be prepared to deal with that. That's definitely something you'll have to kind of to be ready to put into action when you might be like cringing at the same time. Like it might hurt. I have to do it all the time. I have to, and it's funny when I have like a mixing and mastering class full of students that are all like saying most of them. I had one of the last ones that I had, Tristan was in it. I had one where most of the students were kind of, like-minded about, pristine audio and like making everything, following all the rules and and then there was one young kid, really, really talented, but he brought in this kind of aspect to it, and we had to kind of take everything we knew and throw it out the window when we dealt with his stuff, just to kind of make that happen the right way. So that is that. So I would definitely look at some of the elements that you have in there that are not as forward as the chords, and then bring them out a bit. I think either way, whether you bring out that arpeggiator or that arpeggiated part more, you should maybe add a little more. It's a little thin, so add a little more body to it.
Okay.
Mix in a little more body to it. Otherwise, it sounds great. Composition wise, this is fantastic. They should be very happy at what they're getting.
Okay, cool.
Do you have any questions or anything else you want to add into this?
No, not at all. That was very helpful.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions or things they want to add on to this?
What did you use for the strings that start? You had in the very beginning of the track?
Oh, so that's just a sound library. That's LA Studio Strings.
Okay.
That's the Sordino library, which is with a mute, so it's a little bit airy sounding.
Well, very nice.
Right. How are we doing, Thomas, on time?
Good. We're doing good. We have like another minute or so for this track. So if you want to, continue on with anything, or if we're ready to move on, that's also good to save us a couple minutes.
Is there anything else that you want me to cover or discuss on your track?
No, I mean, this will become clearer once I get vocals back, but I wanted to, make sure I hadn't totally screwed the pooch on the mix here.
I think you didn't, but you kind of should include a little bit of like throwing out everything and like
Sure.
doing something that goes against your grain altogether, which is like distorting the crap out of stuff that you might not want to.
Yeah,
it's just to match.
I can get out the L316 and go crazy.
Yeah, really, I always am big on reference tracks, and if they've already sent you reference tracks to kind of match to, really respect the reference track regardless of what the reference track is doing. If you want to make the artist happy, you're going to have to do that. If not, they're going to continue to be pushing back against this.
Sure, thank you.
All right, very, very cool material. Let's move on. I think we have Tristan's track next. Is that correct? Labyrinth, is that right? Tristan, are you there? I see your picture.
Yep, that's right.
All right, let's get you on camera so that we can.
Okay.
have a look at you.
We were doing the other one next. Hey.
So here we are. This is yours, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's play it. Let's listen. I've been working with Tristan for a while now, for a few months. There are issues that we've identified together as, you know, as him having, and he's working on them, I guess. And so let's see what happens when we play this one back. Now, have I heard this one? I forget.
Yeah, we sort of worked on an earlier version of this. This is when we sort of had, like, nobody showed up to class, so we just kind of had a one-on-one. So you've maybe heard, you know, like, say the first 2 minutes of this or so, but I mean, I've retooled it quite a bit. I've got completely new leads in there. For this mix, I was like really trying to listen to sibilance for the leads. So that's kind of one thing that I'm wondering if you could just listen for.
Okay. And how far off are you on the rest of the mix as far as
I think it's you know, I haven't, as you can see by the waveform, I haven't like mastered it or anything like that, but I think I'm getting pretty close to the arrangement and sort of like a rough mix. But yeah, I'd just be curious to see what you think about it. I've employed a lot of the techniques we've talked about, including like Haas effect and reverb and panning of the various elements. So I think everything has a pretty good sense of space.
Right.
But yeah, just see what you think.
Okay, so I just realized we skipped over Dizzy Conscious Scratch. We're going to go that one next. We already started with Tristan. Sorry about, you know, jumping over. I didn't mean to do that. But for you people that don't know, Tristan makes these very interesting, let's call pieces that are basically a bit like mini symphonies. They have 3 movements in them usually, and so they're basically like 3 tracks in one, which can present a challenge when both mixing and then further mastering it. Let's listen and then we'll talk. Here we go. That is the best I've ever heard your music sound.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that.
So
From you.
you've been working on this for a while, and this is definitely the most balanced. And I can't look to be honest. It's very hard. I don't even have to be honest about it. It's just it's truth. I mean, it's very hard to balance 3 tracks and so many elements and keep track of it all and make it all like work out. I mean, this is a Herculean task that you're kind of taking on. I don't know why you're doing this to yourself.
Because it's there. I don't know. No, but for real though, this track, I have to say, it's the least amount of instruments that I've used actually, and I'm kind of as opposed to just layering more parts on and stuff, I'm kind of reducing down, and it's I was really trying to play with space and just actually try to develop each of the instruments that I have, as opposed to just going somewhere completely different.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to mention that. I've heard some other things you've done, and you have the tendency to stack on more things and to fill up the space because you can.
Right.
I mean, and it's almost like a curse, but it's like a blessing wrapped in a curse, because you have the ability to like write more parts always. You don't have you're not lacking inspiration for parts, but then putting them all together, then it's the space is so crowded. I've heard that happen a lot in some of the things that you've done.
Yeah.
So it's great, but it's in the end it's not great, because that whole kind of cliche that less is more really does apply to music more than anything else, actually. So I'm glad that you've noticed that, and I'm glad that you've actually applied that. You could probably get away with a little more of that, of actually stripping down the element.
Right. It's just a hard lesson for me to learn. I'm still learning it.
Sure. I'm saying right now you're riding the line between must reduce and not reducing at all. It's really kind of there. But you're really at the threshold where if you added anything else, it would be over the top. And you could probably get away with a lot of stripping it down. We've been working on your bass content and the way that your bass presents. It's better. It's definitely better, especially on certain parts. There's like the bass that comes in just like at the end of the 4-minute mark. That's a nice round bottom sounding bass. Some of the bass that was in the other stuff was a little bit still needing some of that really low bottom. Specifically, like the kick, the first kick that you're using is very, very bright and very, very mid-rangey and high-endy, and has little on the bottom end to kind of balance that out. So I always love to add high-end to kicks, just because if I have a very low kick going on with like a lot of subs happening, it helps me make it cut through the mix and make it stand out, and especially in a very crowded mix. I actually add a little bit of brightness to it, maybe even a lot more than you might think. But in this case, it's like all the brightness is there, but the low end isn't there.
Okay.
And it's a bit skewed that way. And at parts, and I'd say in the beginning parts more than in the first movement, more than in the second, and definitely not the third, there was a little bit of a tendency or to have a bit of resonance in and I wouldn't call it. It's kind of like the same thing South Sound had going on with their track, where it was, I put a de-esser on there, and it wasn't sibilance, it was lower, like a 2K to 4K range, which is technically not supposed to be sibilance. I still hear some of that stuff going on there. I think there might be a quick place I could just show you, just even from the beginning. There's a first growl that comes. Let's go to the beginning here. This is the first kind of growl that comes in. That, whatever the growl, that element right there. I mean, it's a nice element. But it just has a little bit of that, more of that frequency than other frequencies I'd like to hear. I'd like to hear a little more bass in that, and maybe a little air in that.
It's kind of filtering in, so it's sort of arriving, that element, but okay.
But it's kind of an example of what you might hear even moving along. It's all really nice, but it could stand with a little bit of backing off on those frequencies.
Okay.
Just to kind of like warm it up. It tends to make it. I think it makes it a bit cold.
So you're saying around the 1K, 2K?
Well, I'd have to measure with something like a de-esser or something like that, but I think around the 2K, 2 to 4K or 2 to 3K frequency. But it's just a little bit more than everything else, and I think backing off on that will give you a little warmer feel.
Yeah.
Just to add the warmth, because it definitely makes it colder, unless you're going for that, and that's what you know. But the fact that first movement doesn't have the low end, and then that kick is also reinforcing that part of it. It's also kind of like, okay, what do we do here? All right. So, but let me just go back to saying what I said earlier. This is pretty much one of the best mixes I've heard so far.
Thanks, man.
From your stuff, but needs improvement, of course.
Yeah.
All of us need improvement. Not much. Yeah. You're almost hitting you're almost on right that bullseye.
Okay, cool.
I would say some of the things that I said could be applied, and then you'd be good.
Okay, great.
Any questions before we move on to the next one?
Did you find the leads sibilant at all? I kind of I think I over, I was erring on the side of caution in a way.
Sibilants, like classic sibilants that we always discussed in class, was the biggest issue here.
Yeah.
I think more of these resonant frequencies that were like a little bit less than in this in like the 7 to 11K that we always talk about where sibilance lives. I don't think that necessarily was the problem in any of the mix. Even in
Okay.
All right, how are we doing on time, Thomas?
That was perfect. So we'll move on to the next one.
Okay, so we're gonna go to Dizzy Conscious. I don't know who that is been submitted by. Who submitted that one? Anybody? Dizzy Conscious. This one here. Scratchbox 6. Thomas, do you know who submitted this one?
I could check here. Dizzy. Looks like it was Hudson Howard is the name, it looks like.
Is Hudson Howard in the room?
Doesn't seem like it.
Maybe check the YouTube. Maybe he's hanging out there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they should be in the Zoom if we're going to do feedback. So I'm going to skip it for now. You could look for him if you like. We'll go on to the next person, and then, let's see what we have for time. Okay, who submitted this one? Moreno.
Yeah, it's me. Aux, meaning the O, at the end of the line.
So is that
sorry, 1 second.
Moreno or
yeah, Moreno, that's me.
Okay, so this is okay, and this is the name of the track is I Can't Stand the Rain.
Yeah, it's based on that track, I Can't Stand the Rain. It's pretty much what it's called, like that. It actually takes 3 or 4 samples from that track, and everything else is built around it.
Okay. Anything else we need to hear before I played it?
I mean, there's a small story connected to it. Like 10 years ago, I found the sample, but I couldn't find an acapella, so I flew to London just to get this vinyl. And
that's commitment.
It really is commitment. Over time, the vinyl got lost. My uncle found it last year in my grandmother's barn. So I finally got it, and I finally got around to using it. And I built this track over the course of like two or three days. Which means it went smoother than usual. And I'm looking for feedback in terms of structure. I feel like the low end is missing. I haven't done any parallel processing yet, so maybe the track isn't as full as I kind of want it to be. And also there's like a couple of transitions within the track where I try to make it more like where I try to make it more varied. And I just want to get a sense from you and everybody here on all of those things that I just mentioned. So structure, mixing, bass, and the differences between different sections. That's all.
Let's play it and see what we're dealing with. Here we go.
I can't stand the rain.
Thank you. I don't know if the ending is, quite there yet, but it's getting there.
Well, the ending, funny story. I mean, I actually don't even care about in my tracks about endings. So a lot of the time I'll just like end it. My theory is like, I got you to listen to this far and like it, then I got you. I don't care.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I'm going to use that from now on.
I really don't care. I really don't care. If I could make you listen to 4 minutes or 5 minutes of a track and really love it, and then get mad at me at the end, I play the joke on you. But anyway, regardless, I have a bit of a experience in this scene or this type of sound. What did you use for the bass line?
It's a TB03, computer controlled and then distorted with like Scream within reason and like another effect on it. I needed something to make it thicker, and because the TB03 can sound really flat because it's cheap. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so really cool. I found there's some balancing issues. So this is a compliment. This is a dirty track, and this is a compliment. I mean, I hope you could take it as a compliment because actually,
absolutely, yeah, I get that.
It's like it's really, but in dirty tracks, the kind of lo-fi paradigm goes into effect where with lo-fi you need to have chunkiness. Chunkiness is like kind of the thing that goes on with lo-fi, and I found that some of the hi-hats, like especially in the beginning, just kind of thin and quiet because of that. So I think you could have or you can beef up those hi-hats to give that sort of you kind of need it in this genre to kind of keep up. And they feel out of place with the rest of the stuff, being that everything is kind of a dirty sample. It's like really raw kind of energy going, and then these hi-hats come in that are not loud enough and also a bit on the thin side. So I think lowering. So are you using Ableton? I forget.
No, just this was I mostly use Reason just kind of to record and do shit in there.
So I don't know. I'm not aware of everything that Reason has for you these days. I used to use Reason a long time ago, but for a very long time, I made a lot of tracks in Reason, but I haven't in a while. I know that something like Ableton or some other DAW or some other plugin might have a bit reducer or some sort of way to like crush it or like reduce.
I was gonna suggest like a bit crusher. Is that what you're thinking about?
Yeah, to chunk things up a bit, like to make it low, like low sample rate. So I give you a kind of an example of what I'm talking about. The best cutting hi-hats in a mix that you could ever mix is if somebody recorded a track, a house track, let's say, with a TR-909. Okay, a TR-909 has, if you try to mix those hi-hats and those cymbals and into your crashes into the mix, they mix themselves. You don't even have to touch them. They're perfect. And the reason being is that they are so low quality samples. Okay, I think there's something like 6-bit or something like that, like really, really low quality samples. But when you have low quality samples on high end material, it really chunks it up to the point where in a mix, it just holds its own. And if you need to make it a little brighter, you can EQ a little bit into that, but it really doesn't need much. So maybe some sort of bit crushing to the hi-hat would be what you could do. The kick, what did you use for the kick?
The kick was, one second. What did I use for the kick? I can't remember.
Sounds like a 707 style kick to me.
I think it was just a heavily. I can't remember like where the exact kick came from, but I do know that I haven't used that many effects on it. There was no parallel processing on it, nothing like that.
Play this for a little bit. I need to do that for my next comment, but I'm pretty sure, and we'll talk in class because you're in my class, about, I think it's a 707 kick. And 707 kicks are amazing. They've been using Acid House forever. Like Bam Bam used them for all of that cool stuff that he did. But the thing about it is it's a very tight kick, and it sounds a lot like a real kick drum. It doesn't have that boom that an 808 or a 909 even would. And a lot of times I find that when I'm using, and I love using the 707, all the 707 drums for these type of tracks, these kind of raw kind of tracks. But when I use those kind of very tight short kicks, I like to have a very short but boomy kind of layer to it. So add a little bit of a, so if you just layer it with a like a boomy kick, tune to the right place, but very short, like super short, so much that you can't even notice that it's there. It'll add this kind of enough of the bottom end punch that'll give it a lot more, and it won't sound like a 909. It won't sound like an 808. It won't sound like this like big thing. It'll just sound like this very tight, but somehow holding it down in the bottom sort of thing. I'm talking about a sliver of a low boomy kick, very short. Very short is the key though. Other things I noticed that the guitar at points was very loud compared to the rest of the mix. Could use bring backing off on that a bit. And let's see. I can't even understand my notes here, but one other thing I noticed that the clap was in there quite a lot, like more like so percentage wise. Like when I write it, when I'm playing making a track, especially a track like this, I will look at the arrangement and then I'll at points I'll just see what element did I leave in there the most. And then I'm like, okay, let's see if I could just take it out of a couple of places, and if I'll notice, and if it makes it any worse. And if it doesn't make it any worse, it usually makes it better. So just look at your arrangement. It's everybody can do this. Just look at your arrangement and kind of see it in without even listening. See it with your eyes, like the arrangement, and see where the parts are so full. It's so thick of the same part, and you'll be surprised. Sometimes you just kind of missed it. Like, wow, I never took out that cowbell, for example. I'm not saying that's happened to you, but it could be that, or I never took out that clap. Where you did take it out at the end, but you never, it was there an ordered amount of time compared to every other elements. So just make sure you just to keep, because it's a lot of there's not too many elements going on here, so you have to kind of play a switcheroo as much as you can. And the new guitar in the end was a bit muffled. It didn't have the same power, and you could tell by the way the whole thing looks. It loses a lot of energy here, even though it's meant to keep going with the energy. Compared to this, just in looks alone, it already seems like something else is going on there.
Do you think I should cut those last 30 seconds? I feel like it could feel like an afterthought, but I'm also like, it gives a variety to the track. It takes into a different place. I just don't know what to do.
You're an artist, right? You all are artists, and you have to make calls on what you think your art should be. It's your statement. It's the way that you're presenting this. Now, from practical standpoints, like DJ tools, let's say, right? If you want a DJ to play this, if you wait to put some of the most interesting stuff in the last 30 seconds, the chances of anybody ever hearing it are like none, because no DJ is going to wait for the last 30 seconds of a track to give you. It's happened to me before. I know that, because even not so late in the track, maybe even just 2 or 3 minutes into the track, I'm like, the DJ's playing my track. I'm like, yeah, DJ's playing my track. All happy. I'm like, yeah, wait till that part comes in. And then the DJ starts mixing out of it. I'm like, no, stop. I want to hear my favorite part, but DJ doesn't care, right? Has other things on to think about, another agenda. So from that standpoint, maybe you could think about that. And does it need to be there? Sometimes I'll do stuff like this in the end of something just to play a game with somebody's head. If you happen to listen to it this far, this is what you'll get. You decide. It's your call. You're an artist. You have artistic license to do whatever you want, right? But again, you get what you go for. So be with that. How are we doing on time, Thomas?
I think that about does it for this one. We're just gonna try to keep moving.
Cool. Thank you. Super useful. Thanks.
Hey, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So I don't know how long this track was, but like in a house music scene, you're saying it would be best to keep more interesting things in like the first minute of the track?
No, well, look, this is a big discussion because things are changing constantly now. It depends on what type of house music scene you're talking about. So if you're talking about the house music scene that people like Mala and stuff like that are doing, like like the G house and things like the more EDM style house stuff, you better get your stuff done before 2 minutes are over. Everything has to be done. Like get it done by the first minute, because nobody's waiting. It's so much ADD going on there.
Yeah.
Producers are basically just getting right to starting with the drop already, but if you're looking at another type of scene, which this track what I was doing is dealing with another kind of maybe more European based mentality towards listening to house music, which is taking more time to develop. It's more, it's more of a kind of a tribal kind of thing that kind of just keeps on going, and you have to play it. But even then, as maybe a EDM style DJ might play it a minute and a half tops. One of these type of DJs will play it 2.5 to 3 minutes tops. So even then, you don't have. So you have to see what your market is and make a call there.
Okay.
Okay. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. Thank you.
All right. So what are we playing next, Thomas?
Did you have any more bounce tracks in there, or no? Did we get through them?
Dizzy Conscious, but
I would say we'll probably hold off for that. Is Sophia in the meeting anywhere? I know Max wanted us to get to that one. I just wasn't sure if she's actually on here, or maybe she's on. That one. It was the Ableton file that hopefully was working, but
the chords one?
No, it's the other one. I think it was called, let me just double check.
I Need Air?
Yeah, I Need Air, but I don't quite know if she's in the meeting.
Okay, so be a little bit hard to give feedback if they're not in the meeting.
Yeah, so maybe let's hold off on that too.
Do we have ones that are links?
Yes, so I sent you a couple links via email.
Thomas, did you get mine? The one, the OG one I sent?
Who's this speaking? Sorry, I can't quite.
Ragab's mine?
Yes, so I sent that link to Abe. Let's see if he got that. I think that was the first link I sent.
Okay, so I'll play it straight from here.
Oh yeah, so this one was a bounce.
Can you hear this?
Yeah.
Yep, I hear that.
Still hear it? Can you still hear it now?
Yeah.
Good.
it just end like that?
Yeah, I just finished it like 5 minutes before the deadline, so I didn't have time to finish the very end.
I thought you
So
were
I
like,
kind of
man after my own kind of heart, with like just playing the game of like, hey, I got you to listen to it towards the end, so that's how you get.
No, I still do lots of work, but I saw the email late, and I really wanted to get some feedback, so I tried to finish it, get my idea out, but I still need to extend it for two minutes at least.
Talk to me about the track. Talk to me about what your purpose of it, what you're doing to do, what type of feedback you're looking for.
Sure. So I want to do something more housey and chill. And chill. Normally I do more deep house stuff, and I wanted to turn something more slow and chill. And I started with the chords, and I built everything around the chords. And that's it. I just literally finished it like maybe after the deadline, like at 1:15. That's why I sent it slightly late. And in terms of feedback, I'm never sure when I'm done with the track. I always keep on questioning myself and then repeating, changing things or adding more sounds, adding less sounds, and then I create a new track out of it. So I just want to get some feedback on what is missing, what needs to be done. I'm sure the levels are not correct. Many of the effects sound too high and things like that. So I still need to play in the mix of the sounds, I guess. But I'm more looking for feedback on composition-wise, like arrangement. Of course, also on levels and things like that. But I know I didn't even put any time in checking the levels, so the feedback will not be, I didn't do the work yet.
Right.
In terms of mixing.
So composition-wise, I really need to know what your intended target for this is. Where would your market be? Is it?
Good question.
Is it something for you to listen to? Is it something for a specific?
I would say like something more loungy in the beginning of a night in a bar, in a club. I would on the beach, like more of the kind of slow house vibe. That's more I think towards. I don't think it would be played in a proper club, but more background music in a beginning of the night or during a bar or something, or at home, I guess. So I didn't think much on who's my target audience, to be honest with you.
So I was wondering, when I was listening to it, whether or not it needed, it was meant to have something like a singer going on top of it. Because the way it's set up right now, I could imagine that a singer has plenty of room to lay down vocals on it. I mean, there is a sample in it, right?
Very little, yeah.
Right, but so there's room really for a singer to really kind of be all over this. So I wondered whether you were leaving space for that or not. I was almost sure that was the case, because if that's not the case, then you have a track that's very kind of a bit open and kind of sparse and needing a little more of a protagonist. There are protagonistic features in there. There are things that are kind of like taking over the attention, but they tend to be after a while a bit repetitive and not taking the listener through a melodic experience or a lead sort of experience. So that's what a singer would do, or in the case of maybe just a lead, maybe a lead guitar or something a little more on top of everything, because it's a great foundation track for these elements, especially like when it comes to the break, when you start the breakdown, it just kind of drops into like some of the same elements again. Later in the breakdown, something new kind of happens a bit, but it's a great place there for the singer to be singing on top of that, or the guitarist or whatever the element that you might have as a lead would be playing on top of that. I think you could use, and you could argue with me and debate me on this, and I'll welcome your counter opinion on it. But I would say in my listening, and you guys in the chat could like add your own opinions on this. I could say that it's a bit sparse and could use a bit of something that to keep the attention of the listener going.
Good. No, I agree. I think for me, maybe the lead sound that comes after the break maybe comes a bit late. Maybe if I don't get a vocalist, maybe I need to shorten out the parts a bit. Maybe they repeat too much. But yeah, I think a vocalist would also work.
As it stands right now, it's like perfect for a vocalist. A vocalist could jump right on top of this, and you'd be done. It would be an amazing track. you know, with a vocalist. It's really ready for a vocalist. It just has the right amount of things that the vocalist needs, and no competition really for the vocalist on there. The piano that you have in there, I wanted to give you a suggestion. The piano is very nice. It's a little bottom endy, meaning that it's like played in a lower
bassy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. That's great. I don't think you should get rid of the bass, but I was thinking that, you know, and this you could do with something that you try to make it so you won't be so noticeable, but it'll still help, which is to add a piano that's like the same part, but like take that same part, make another piano, an instance of another piano, and then bring it up an octave or two.
Okay.
Bring it up an octave and then blend it with the piano that you have there, but like bring it down in volume by
half and half, probably. Like you just have the same.
Keep the original the way it is, and then just blend a bit of the higher one into that, just to give it more harmonics, to kind of stretch out the range of what it's covering. Because right now it's on the low register, but it's nice on the low. So I don't think that, you know, EQing away the low is the answer. I mean, maybe just adding a bit of the high that you don't have by, you know, blending a bit of a higher octave together with it. That could fill it up a little more.
Yeah.
Without being too obvious. Now, if you're having it at the same volume level, it'll be very obvious. But if you just have it like half of the volume of the other one, or wherever you like it, it'll be just so subtle, but so filling it in so nice. That's right. So I have my notes are like, I have vocal with a question mark, and use break for a lead part. So the break comes, the lead it should be coming in, as I told you. And the beginning hi-hats, the first ones that I heard a little bit of sibilance on there, but that's like a mixing issue. I don't think you have to worry about that too much until you're in the mixing stage of this whole thing. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
Thanks a lot. All very good feedback. But one question: your comment about the lead, you were saying I should get it earlier or in the break?
Yeah. So the break comes, and then there's like a good moment of like, okay, why are we breaking?
What's happening? Okay.
You know, what are you giving me for this break? You know, for losing I'm bopping my head. Now you take it away. Okay. So what am I getting it back? What is the pay? What is the switcheroo? It's always a switcheroo with these tracks. No matter if it's a house music track or whatever. If you take something away, you gotta give something back to keep the attention. It's about keeping the attention of the listener, and you know you can't just pull away too much stuff that and nothing new happens for a while. Like the second part has the new piece that you said maybe you should have brought in earlier, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
For a while, nothing new happens. It's just
that's true.
It's just a break. Yeah. So it's way open for a lead or a singer to do something in there.
Perfect. I'll try a vocalist first, and if not, I'll trim it down.
All right. And any other questions or?
No, thank you very much. Those were all very useful comments. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great track. It reminds me of some of the stuff that I did when I first started to get into making music production.
Oh yeah.
I love playing piano at that time. Piano was my instrument, and I did a lot of kind of jazz-based piano stuff. Nobody knows about it because I never put any of that out. But that was really what I wanted to pursue at one point before house music got me. Anyway, how are we doing, Thomas, on time?
We're doing good. Let's keep it moving along if that's good with you.
I have one more. Alexei. Is it Alexei?
Yeah, it's Alexei.
Alexei. SoundCloud link?
Yes.
I'm going to play that. Where are you, Alexei? I don't see you.
I cannot turn on camera. I think I should do it at the beginning.
Sure. Let's have a listen. Let me know if it's not playing back.
Okay.
So I'm clicking on the link now. Sorry. All right. Great track. Talk to me or talk to us about this track and tell us what the inspiration was, what you used to make it, what you're looking for in feedback, and so on.
Yeah, so basically, as it titled, futuristic retrofuturism. So it's like I wanted to make something in 80s, 70s style sound, but futuristic, really heavy, really like warehouse rave. And yeah, and for this track, I tried to make more melodic stuff. So it's like always melodies going on. And I would like to get some feedback on composition, arrangement, and mixing. I didn't do much mixing on this, and I feel like low end probably not as powerful as it could be. So yeah, just those things.
So when you say that you were doing a 70s sound, are you thinking about, are you talking about things like disco or like Italo disco or like Giorgio Moroder, or is this?
No, a little bit more like, you know, like Tangerine Dream,
Okay.
all this arpeggiated sounds.
Mhm.
So I wanted to bring that, you know, retro feel, but on the like techno, hard techno structure.
And what did you use? How are you going about making the sound? What did you use to make the sound?
So I'm using mostly Arturia presets and Ableton. And then I just add some distortion or some effects on the synthesizers. And then I just make my beats out of samples, but it's all like pretty much handmade stuff, not so many pre-made samples.
Okay, so it sounds composition-wise, I think you make really great music. Composition-wise, I think I have some experience in this space. This type of the techno or dance or whatever you want to call it, style-wise. I think looking at it from the perspective of like a DJ, from the standpoint of a DJ, it would totally work with us in a set. It would it isn't lacking or isn't too much. I think talking about it in a compositional way would be kind of I don't know if it would be redundant in the sense that I don't know if it would be better. Could I could just give you ways of making it different, which I don't know if that means making it better. Being that I think I like what I hear when it comes to the composition of it all.
Mm-hmm.
What I did wonder about more was and I don't know if it's a SoundCloud thing. I know that SoundCloud's bit rate is a bit low. Is the quality of the sounds that you're listening to, that we were listening to, could have been a little better processed. I know you say you didn't really spend time on mixing it, but not only the quality of the like the EQing on individual parts, they all seemed very kind of raw in a way, like from just used and not really curated in a way to like a proper mix, let's say, which I think it's not very far from sounding amazing. It's just really getting into just properly mixing it, and then also the use of space. I would like to have seen more. I felt a lot of it was in the center, which is great if you have a Brave, things will sound fine with that, but if you're having a home listening experience, certain things I could tell were panned a bit to the left and to the right. But for the most part, some of the more prevalent sounds were really coming in the center, as far as I could hear from here. And I don't know if that's more of the SoundCloud experience, or if it's something that's going on in your mix.
Yeah, I think it's something that I need to explore more about panning, because I don't know theory. I know that kick and bass supposed to be in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Other things I'm maybe not confident about panning them right now.
But do you know what the Haas effect is, for example?
No.
So this would be a perfect thing to and we talk about it in the mixing and mastering class for those that feel like they need a little more on this. And I'm sure Thomas can send you a schedule of the new ones coming up. but the Haas effect can take a sound that's in the center, say your main kind of driving synth part, and make it feel so much bigger, and so much the presence of it could expand. And that basically comes down to just changing what happens on one ear and in the other ear, as far as timing, or as we did earlier with South Sound's project, they did a change in the pitch on one side to like make left and right ear have this kind of subtly different experience that confuses the brain into feeling that it's much bigger.
Yeah.
If you too much to one side, like if you pitched it very much different, then your brain would be like, oh, no, that's two things. That's two separate things. Or if you had a time shift that was a little bit too much, let's say more than 23 milliseconds on one side or another, that would kind of tip off the brain that there were like two sounds going on, and that they weren't, it wasn't just a sound that was delayed a little bit. If you do that, it can really open up some of the parts. And I think in every mix, at least one thing needs to be addressed that way, because it's a secret place in the mix where we don't usually access, or let's say we could be accessing it, but if we don't access it, we're missing out on this kind of secret location, another dimension in your mix that we can access. Like everything is full. Like what I'm hearing in your mix, everything is full. It's a full-on mix. Even though it's not the most parts I've ever heard, but everything is like right there, and it's because a lot of it is in the center. Some of it is panned out to the sides. But if you grab an element or two and put it in the Haas effect, you would get this kind of feeling that now this element suddenly got removed from the quotient of everything else in the center and put in its own secret dimension. It's really crazy how you can like take advantage of that secret dimension that way. So look into the Haas effect, and if you need more help, you could take the mixing and mastering class that we're coming up soon. But that's that. Any other questions on that?
I guess about transitions. How do you feel about transitions? Is there any loss of energy at some point?
No. I mean, for my taste, I would like to see more stripping down happening.
Yeah.
Like a little more stripped down, but that's a taste thing. I cannot, there's a line between my taste and what I think would actually really make it better. I'm not sure that my taste is what makes things better, right? So I can't give you that. But I as we have mentioned before in this session, is that less is more. And sometimes stripping down makes you feel more like you miss a certain part, or appreciate the parts that are there that you can't really appreciate because everything else is crowding it, especially in a very crowded mix like this. It's very crowded.
Yeah. And about that thing with a lead where it starts maybe in the middle, is it too late or it's fine for this?
You have to make that call. I mean, we talked about knowing what your market is. If you are making this for the EDM market, it's definitely too late.
Yeah.
Everything should have happened by a minute. And if it didn't happen by a minute, forget it. So some EDM tracks are like no longer than a minute and a half, 2 minutes now. That's it. It's over after that. This track is what, like almost 5 minutes as it is. So, we're looking at this track follows a different paradigm. Like in this track, about a minute and a half, which was something interesting should happen, right? And then a little later, 2.5 minutes into it, maybe something else interesting should happen. But that's, altogether, another paradigm, but you have to know what your market is. And I think you have your market down right. For your market, I think it's okay what you're doing.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right, Thomas, how are we doing on time?
We're good. I think we have time for about one more track if you're up for it.
Do we have another track? Because I'm not sure we have another track.
I did send you one more that was submitted during the session. I think it was from a former student of yours, maybe?
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, you should have gotten it from email. Let me just...
I'm looking at it right now. This is from, okay, something that's not mastered. Who is this from?
It says Mark Holm was...
Abe, it's Mark.
Oh, Mark, yes.
Okay.
He's
All
on.
right. Hey, Mark. Let's listen and see what we can do here. I can't see anybody else if they're clapping or not. But Mark, can you turn on your camera?
It's on, but it's the one that's really says Eminem. It's really shitty.
Oh, you sound like a really nice delay on your voice.
I have my speakers on, so I'm gonna take it off.
All right. You see, all right. Marco was a student of mine actually at DubSpot. So we go back a long way. So let me start. Sorry, I just downloaded it. And iTunes tried to play it again because I wanted to look at it in my DAW. Because you said it's not mastered, right? But it does seem like it's a little bit of treatment. What's it called again?
Music is, or I forget, fuzzy. Yeah. I named it twice because I now compose in Ableton, but I mix down in Logic.
Okay. So have a look at what you got going on here. First of all, let's take the warping off. Have a look at the nice brick that you sent us. Let's have a look at the rest of your waveforms. Let's deep look at it, and you can see that these have been basically to the max. Some of them decapitated completely.
Interesting.
So you definitely have some treatment on the master bus, and it shows. It definitely shows by the way it plays, and I could hear it the most on the hi-hats. The hi-hats sound labored. They sound like they're having trouble or a bit on the distorted side, and that's what you would hear when you have something this compressed or this limited.
You know what's funny is that, I mean, I sent this out, but I never ever thought of looking at the wave file to see how crushed it is, or like how compressed.
Right. So this is pretty much, I mean, we have one other that's close to that, but yours wins, but we didn't even play that one. All the other ones have a lot more dynamic range to speak of.
Right.
Yours is completely eaten up. Now, this would be okay. Well, let me just talk about this for a second. We're in a different world that we were 2 years ago when it comes to the way we treat our tracks as far as apparent loudness. So 5 years ago or more, we were in the midst of the loudness wars. So the loudness wars made it that we had to like, it was really like the loudest track wins. It's like my track is louder than yours, or mine is bigger than yours, and I'm better. So bigger is better, right? This was what people had in their brains, and what everybody was looking for when they were looking for a good mastering engineer was somebody to make their track louder. Funny, at that period of time, I would ask a class full of students before starting a mastering class, like, hey, who knows what mastering is all about? And the people would raise their hands, and 9 out of 10 students would say, making a track louder, right? So that's where we were there. We're now in a different place. We're now in a streaming world. And mind you, you still are uploading stuff to like Beatport and things like that for DJs to play. And when you still do that for DJs, then you still kind of have to mind the fact that you might want to, make it as loud as it helps to like get their attention and let them play it. But when you do stuff for streaming, now something this push, like this brick that you gave me, this would actually be lowered significantly to a point where you wouldn't even recognize it. You'll play a track that's like from the 50s or something like that, like an Elvis track, and it'll be much louder than this track because they go on this LUFS reading.
Right.
Let me just take quickly. I think I might have a LUFS meter here somewhere. If not, but I think I do. I just got to find it.
You definitely do. Yeah, what's funny is that I never thought of looking at it when I get it back, but maybe that's a good idea.
Yeah, and I'm looking right now, and I know that I have the Ulean one, for example, but I don't know where it is right now, just off the top. But I wanted to test it for like what LUFS you're getting, because now we're using a standard called LUFS, a scale called LUFS, which is not calculated on like momentary things that are happening in the moment, like in the DBFS scale, where you use a peak and RMS situation, where it's, you know, either 10 milliseconds or 300 milliseconds, and then you have your dynamic range in between. That's not the case anymore. The case now is that you're listening, the software listens to the audio for about 2.5 minutes, and then awards you a score. And that, depending on how much limiting and how much pressure you have, that score is going to go way down. I would say this, by the way that it looks, I'm going to say it's about a -7 on the LUF score, where for Spotify, you need it to be -14 before they start lowering it. And right now, you know, could be like, otherwise, composition wise, music wise, you know, all that mix wise even sounds great, but I think you're pushing it a little too much, even besides the fact that in streaming this would go a little bit, it would be a lot too much and would actually hurt you so much to have it like that for like Spotify. Even for like download, this would be so compressed that I could hear it in the hi-hats. It's starting to degrade the quality of the mix. So you're diminishing your turns now, and you're not really getting anything good out of the fact that you're pushing it that much. So there's a point. So do we use limiting or not in this new environment that we're in with streaming? The answer, I think, is still yes, because there's a certain level of limiting or amount of limiting that gives you that kind of pump, especially in this type of music, this type of pump or tightness that you want out of something. But limiting a little more starts to lower the quality of the sound, and I think you've gone to that level of limiting at this moment with this track. So we need to back off on that limiter, man.
All right, I'll send it to you. Maybe you'll do something with it.
All right. Thomas, I think that's all the time we have for today, right?
Yes, I think that about does it. For anybody who submitted a track, I know we had a couple others like Tyler. I want to make it a priority to do yours first next time. Thank you for joining us regardless, and everybody sticking around. I just want to say a very special thanks to Abe. It's actually his birthday today, and he
happy birthday, man.
Made the effort to join us for this, which I thought was really nice and kind to put
Happy
some
birthday.
time for the day. And these are growing, and they've been going really smooth, especially having the instructors on board. So thanks again for everybody who participated.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for holding this. It's very useful.
Yes, we'll be back next week, same time on Sunday with a different instructor, yet to be announced. So look out for that. And if you guys have any questions during the week, you can always reach me at thomas@343labs.com.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Nice to meet everyone.
Take it easy. Happy birthday, Abe.
Thanks.